Metropolis is a 1927 German film that's directed by Fritz Lang. So Metropolis was last month's subscriber poll winner, and this is a film that I knew about for such a long time. So I'm glad that you guys have finally given me the chance to stop putting this film on hold and finally check it out. This is a film that's legendary as hell for so many reasons. The main reason being that, at least what I heard, was that it was way ahead of its time. Like, what this film was able to accomplish for the year 1927 is apparently batshit insane. So that's pretty much all I really knew about this film going into it, is that for the time, it was just a huge accomplishment in filmmaking. And now after watching the film, it definitely lives up to its reputation, and somehow even shattered that expectation. Because this film, to me, even though, as I mentioned, I went into it expecting something that was going to be extremely timeless and something that was going to be impactful in so many different phases of filmmaking, it still somehow managed to be mind-blowing cinema, even for someone like me, who's a modern viewer in the year 2023, basically watching this film 100 years after it already came out, somehow accomplished to just shatter all the expectations that I had for it. Again, in pretty much every angle that you look at this film, and every single phase of filmmaking, it just exceeds on every level. Whether it be the extremely elaborate and complex set pieces that are dystopian and futuristic, and also just incredibly grandiose in terms of appearance and aesthetic, because this film as a whole just feels ginormous, and just everything with the set pieces and the production design, it all feels so meticulous and so convincing. And even for a film that's made in 1927, I felt transported into this dystopian world that I felt fully immersed in for its entire 2 hour and 30-minute runtime, because I did watch the restored version, and I do mean the complete restored version of all the lost footage that they found in Argentina, that they were then able to craft a full-length cohesive film of Fritz Lang's original vision from. And even though it's a long movie, it really didn't feel like it lagged at all. And it's kind of crazy that, the original version that people watched for, most of this film's existence, that there was this much cut out of it, because everything that I watched in the full-length 2 hour and 30-minute version felt like it was all purposeful, like it all needed to be there. And even though I've never seen the original version, it's really easy to tell which bits of footage are, new in this new restored version, because pretty much all the lost footage were damaged to hell. No matter how much movie magic implemented into the restoration process, you can still very much tell that, all that lost footage is basically beyond repair in a way. There are so many sequences that we can see in this restored version of all this damaged lost footage that have elaborate cases of editing in it, and like elaborate set pieces and action stunt work. And it's crazy that there was actually a lot of hard work and achievements that nobody really ever saw up until this point. But anyway, yeah, the production design and the set design is absolutely insane. As I kind of already mentioned too, the stunt work in this film is through the roof batshit. Especially what we get in the third act of this film. I mean, the action stunt work and the action sequences in general is just balls to the wall insane, because there is just so many extras involved and a lot of children involved in this stunt work, where it's just like a massive, just like pile up of so many different people in small areas. There's this like flooding sequence, this gigantic flooding sequence we get in the third act of this film that apparently took basically a month to film, just that sequence alone. And, apparently it put, obviously, all the people that were working in these sequences through so much suffering and so much hell. I mean, it's very possible that some people got critically injured or even freaking died throughout this process. And I guess while I'm on the topic of stunt work, I have to give gigantic props to the actress Bridget Helm for this role, because not only did I think that she did an excellent job with this role, because the character that she plays, well, I guess she plays two different characters. One personality is angelic and the other one is basically demonic. And obviously they're like two sides of the same coin, and she just knocks it out of the park. I mean, especially with the more demonic role that she has to portray, it's very animated and entertaining to watch. But what I'm trying to get at is that she actually did most of her stunt work in this film, arguably all of her own stunt work in this film. We get that really famous robot scene where she's in the robot suit that actually inspired the C-3PO Star Wars design. And, the director Fritz Lang made her get in that suit and perform in that suit, which is kind of unnecessary, really. But apparently that suit was incredibly uncomfortable to wear. In terms of movement, it was quite painful. She was apparently really bruised up and scratched up. And even more so, she had to perform a lot of her own stunts in the third act of this film. There's this one scene where she has to jump off a flight of stairs and hold on to a rope. And overall, this film, and, arguably Fritz Lang is to blame for all this, but it basically took a huge physical and mental toll on her because of all the things that she was required to do by the filmmaker. But yeah, the production and set design, incredible. Stunt work, insanity. Again, the performance by the main actress, wonderful and phenomenal and daring. This film overall is incredibly daring in so many ways, but her performance, I have to give her a lot of credit for all the shit that she took just to do it. And also the editing and cinematography in this film is out of this world. And again, like, for 1927, for a film to be edited in this way, I didn't even think was possible. There are so many different elaborate and creative uses of editing, especially in terms of like layering and dissolves. There's like 6 or 7 different pieces of imagery in this film where there's just so many different images layered upon each other or separated from each other in one image. And again, I legitimately, maybe it's because I'm a moron, but I really did not think getting imagery like this in 1927 was possible. A great example is that famous and legendary hypnotic dancing sequence that we get, again, from a brilliant performance from Bridget Helms' character. That entire sequence is not only wonderfully portrayed by the actress, but the editing and the direction of that scene is what really makes it come together and makes it compelling. Just the way it cross-cuts between her sequence and its relevance to another character. Just all the layering and the pacing and the cross-cutting. It's just such a brilliant vision come to life in that one particular sequence. I mean, this entire film is what brilliant vision come to life, but one of the greatest examples of this film really being the most, at its most impressive, is right there within that dance sequence. I mean, it is truly compelling and engaging cinema. But also on top of everything, this film also serves as an incredibly thought-provoking and compelling piece of social satire. This film is one giant piece of social commentary in regarding to how the working class is exploited and abused by obviously the top 1% and those who, have the most power and financial success. In a nutshell, it's basically about how the working class of the country is disgustingly undervalued and what could happen when everybody decides to just stop doing their job and revolt. I mean, in my opinion, it's basically a dissection of capitalism, exploring how it always will naturally result into classist divisions, while also kind of shattering the meritocracy element of capitalism in a way. And surprisingly enough, Adolf Hitler himself and just the higher ups of the Nazi inner circle, they apparently all really loved this film. And even though Fritz Lang was Jewish, they basically said, hey, we'll give you a pass just because of your sheer brilliance of being an artist. But obviously Fritz Lang said fuck you and he fled to France. But in a way, I feel like that's kind of a testament to how powerful this film was and how powerful film can be in general. Now, in terms of criticisms that I have of the film, I know you all were probably expecting me to call it a masterpiece. Don't know if I'm there yet. Maybe in the future I will be. But what I'll say about the film in terms of some reservations I had about it, the ending to this film kind of does have this unbelievably idealistic conclusion to it. There's just like this sense of harmony about it that didn't really scream to me as realistic. And even though I do understand why the film's narrative and even its themes decided to wrap up in that way, there was just something about it that didn't really convince me in that way. Another small little thing is that this film is a silent film, so it has title cards in between. Well, I guess not title cards, but they're text cards, I guess. And I mean, text cards in the silent film era were like an art of its own, because you really had to, as a filmmaker, an artist, you had to decide what are moments that the audience really needs to understand certain things that I can't convey, through the gestures of the characters or the action that's on screen. So in this film, I feel like there's a few moments that the text cards that were shown weren't really needed, because I felt like the film visually already kind of conveyed the information really well. So when I got the text card for certain things, I was like, all right, it didn't really feel all that necessary. But I think that's really it in terms of criticisms. I don't really know if these things are going to bother me on rewatch or not. But either way, like, that doesn't take away from how brilliant and compelling and absolutely timeless that this film is. And I think this is a film, you know, a lot like a lot of my favorite films, is something that people are going to watch even 100, 200 years from now and still be just very much impacted by it. Because the production design and the score and the special effects and the editing and, you know, everything in between was brought to life by Fritz Lang, and also the huge studio budget that he had backing him up on this film. And, you know, it really is an incredible filmmaking achievement that is going to be cherished forever and ever. So I'm going to give Metropolis a solid 9 out of 10. Yeah, this is a film that I am so excited to own on Blu-ray. I think Kino Lorber has like an awesome special edition of this film, so I'm going to be looking that up immediately to obviously try to buy and own it. But that's all I got to say about Metropolis. If you really enjoyed what I had to say about the film, please give it a thumbs up and share it amongst your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to be updated on more film-related content.